What's going on, Jerome's Messy Garage Raw Rooter Rant time? The kids got new bikes. Good to see. But so all the focus on the NFL draft is, of course, on quarterback. And understandably so. It is still the most important position in all of team sports. And even with everything lining up ancillary that's going to make this the best landing spot for a quarterback, the receivers, the tackles, the head coach, the QB coach, et cetera, the defense. I mean, I am super hyped for this upcoming defense. And Brian Flores having a much larger voice in the room in terms of personnel this offseason. You've seen it with the free agency signings. Every single signing has his handprints all over it. And now in the draft, you're going to supplement and you're just going to get after things. And I feel like the Vikings are completely building a bully on defense. And it's something that we haven't seen since like peak 2017 of the Zimmer defensive years. And the whole transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4, you can't do it in one off season. It does take time as you sort of transition from that 4-down lineman personnel, and then you get into the 3-4 personnel. And with Donishell, I mean, it's easy to blame Donishell, but he did what he could with the parts that he had, right? And it did not turn out great. And I think, frankly, he was too passive with things, and he needed to be more aggressive. And now, again, so we're not blaming Donishell, but we kind of are. But Flores last year turned what was the 31st ranked defense in the league in 2022 and turned them into a top 12 adjacent unit, largely the same personnel, and even including the defense sort of slip and fall and they can't get up towards the end of the season. Notably, basically the stupid ass Jake Browning and the Bengals broke the Vikings defense in that fourth quarter, and they were just never the same after that. But injuries eventually caught up. No, I don't think that the league caught up to Brian Flores' scheme. I think it's more just attrition and injuries. Everything else caught up. Sort of is what it is. But now, I mean, Flores is putting his stamp on that defense. And yeah, Danielle Hunter is still one of the best edge rushers in the league. He'll always have a special place in my heart, as well as in a lot of Vikings fans' hearts. But the economics of it is what it is, where Danielle Hunter making almost $25 million a year, and the Vikings were able to sign Jonathan Gennard and Andrew Van Ginkel for a couple million more than that. So you're betting on the young guys, you're betting on potential, you're betting on what they're going to be in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, as opposed to paying for what someone has done. I understand that. I get it. And frankly, Danielle did his best, transitioning from a 4-3 close side of the field, left side, strong side defensive end to a stand-up outside linebacker with Donishell. Took about half a year. And Flores, he was great last season with 16 and a half sacks, but he's never a natural stand-up guy. Like he just isn't. And Grenard and his prowess against the run, and Van Ginkel and his versatility, as well as his pass rush productivity in terms of efficiency, they're going to get after things. And also you throw in Jihad Ward and also Blake Cashman at the off-ball linebacker position, which is going to free up Ivan Pace Jr. to do even more insane things. Also, he needs to wear number 0. Ivan Pace Jr. needs to take number 0 or we riot. That's exactly what's going to happen. And yeah, ideally you'd like to see just a quick penetration defensive tackle as well as a huge 350-pound nose tackle, but that's what we got the draft for, man. And I do like that they added Jerry Tillery and Jonah Williams, where it gives them even more depth at that 4-tech, 5-tech defensive end spot. Hopefully they're just going to free up some snaps for Harrison Phillips so he doesn't have to extend himself as he gets into his later years. Also, Jaquelin Roy one time, man. Can we get some more meaningful work for him? And I love Flores. Like he don't broke no BS. And if you're not playing his way, you're not going to play. And you've seen that where you saw a couple names that were on the bench that you were thinking, maybe they should get some run, except they didn't. Or you look at a player like a Caleb Evans, who was benched 7 times last season. And Evans has a ton of talent, but does he fit with what Flores wants to do? And now Flores has another full offseason with him being heavily involved in personnel to really mold this defense into what he wants it to be. Shaq Griffin is in here with a 1-year, $6 million deal. I love that pickup. And the Vikings, were very famous last year for the 3 safety look with Beasley, Metellus, and Harrison. And O'Connell's already talked about scaling back on some snaps for Harrison, keeping him fresher later in games and later in the season. So maybe there's a spot for one of the other safeties to rise up. Could we see Lewis Seen one time? It would be nice to be seen and heard. But defensively, I'm really hyped up about it. I know all the focus is on offense and quarterback right now, but That defense with Flores is really turning into something special. And also, going like third level meta, it's really unfortunate for Flores, but with his lawsuit, I mean, it's very clear that the league and owners are trying to freeze him out. Where you would think that, take the names off of everything, but you have a defensive coordinator with largely the same personnel as the year before, has a 17 team ranking jump in the defense. You would think that especially that coach had previous head coaching experience, one where he also turned around another moribund defense. You'd think that that guy would get at least one head coaching interview, but no, nothing, nada. So again, it's very clear that the league is sort of turning their nose up at Brian Flores, and it's really unfortunate. Dude is a leader of men. Dude is a hell of a coach, and he deserves another crack to be a head coach. But is it going to happen in the next couple of years? Probably not. As that lawsuit just hangs out there, as well as what happened with the Dolphins, which wasn't his fault, by the way. I blame Stephen Ross, but it's an argument for another day. But Flores' unfortunate situation may be a benefit for the Vikings, because O'Connell is growing and showing as the role of head coach and play caller. I think that he was great year one. I think that he was there was some hurdles to overcome in year two, but I have faith in him. I think that he's going to get this quarterback decision right with Darnold and the rookie TBD. I think this offense is going to be top 5 and probably not even 5. And defensively, they have their head coach in Brian Flores. And if he's not going to get a bite at the apple again, and if he's here for 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons, maybe even long term, that's beautiful. I mean, that long-term marriage, you have 2 head coaches for both sides of the football. And by the way, Matt Daniels should become a head coach down the line too. He's doing great things with special teams. All of a sudden, this Vikings team gets super interesting, especially if they get the quarterback thing right and they keep JJ and all the studs. And you got a young core team with tons of cap space, just getting after things. And with Flores, what would be great is if the Vikings can get a pass rush with 4. All right, so you don't have to blitz 5, 6 every single time, leaving your back 7 exposed. So getting the guy up front, especially that defensive tackle spot, who can create their own pass rush and create havoc, that's the next step, man. That is absolutely the next step. And Flores benefit from having Christian Wilkins in Miami. They tried to get Christian Wilkins here, but the Raiders paid Lulu money. But I could see the Vikings going after a guy like Johnny Newton or Byron Murphy or Rook or Michael Hall or someone of that ilk can get their own pass rush up front. And there's a lot of guys in the mid rounds that can certainly fit that bill, where the Vikings have 7 picks on day 3. So it's exciting times, man. And not for 1 second am I regretting the Vikings moving on from Kurt. Like, honestly, right after he signed, just looking at the future of the Vikings, it's extremely bright. And it's almost like Kwesi had this whole mother planned out this entire time. It's crazy, man. But that's it. Get fired up about the defense. You know what to do. Skull, no production value.